Hello and welcome to Slightly Nostalgic. My name is Griff, and we have watched Firefly Episode 3, Bushwhacked. Not my favorite episode. I'm just gonna start out with that. I know it's kind of negative to start out, but it's not the best one. I'd probably rank it last place, and let's just talk about why. Let's talk about the things I didn't like about it, and then we can talk about the things that I did, because there are some redeeming qualities, there are some really fun moments. It's just, of the 14 episodes, it's my least favorite. So just to jog your memory if you haven't seen it in a while, this is the episode where they find the broken down ship and all the people are missing, and they go to investigate and see if they can find anything that they can loot. And then this guy pops up and he's one of their survivors, and then it turns out the Reavers had attacked that ship, and then this guy turns on them and turns murderous, and then the Alliance catches them, and there's a whole thing, there's an interrogation scene, and then all this stuff happens, and the guy gets loose and they have to get him, all that. It's that episode. So the biggest problem I have with the episode is that the central premise of the big plot twist, I guess is what it is that because this guy lived through this horrible thing and was made to witness torture and horrible things happening to the other people on the ship, we're supposed to believe that this turns him into a Reaver. Now, at this point in the show, we don't know what the Reavers even are. They're basically just like a ghost story, but we know that everybody is pretty much afraid of them, which I like. It makes them scarier to the viewer, too, because we don't know if they're even real. We don't know what they look like, if they're aliens, if they're just humans with something wrong with them, they're just savages or what. We have no idea what's going on. But anyway, I just don't buy this idea that witnessing something horrible turns you into a monster who's then going to try to hunt down, first of all, cut up your own face, and then try to hunt down the people who rescued you. They saved him. He was gonna die if they hadn't come along, and he's he's attacking the doctors who are working on him, and then he goes and attacks people on Serenity and things like that. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe this happens sometimes to people who survive things, but not reliably enough that Mal would just be like, oh yeah, well, this is just what happens. This is how Reavers are made. They see horrible things happen, and then they just start cutting up their face and they go attack everyone. That's normal. That's, human psychology. No, that's not a thing. So I didn't like that was just kind of taken for granted. Everybody was just like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, he's a Reaver now. We've got to put a stop to that. It doesn't make sense. It also directly contradicts what, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not going to give you a spoiler for the movie, but if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I probably don't even have to say anything else. It just directly contradicts something we find out in the movie. My other big issue with this episode, before we get into the things I did like, is this trope that they fall into in this one. It's a really common trope in TV shows and movies, but I just expect better of Firefly, because they're so good about setting up familiar TV things and then totally subverting it, that this one they fall into it more than once in this show, and it's so disappointing because you're better than that, Firefly. But what I'm talking about is when there's conflict between characters because of a miscommunication that there was no reason for. There was no something that wouldn't happen in real life that is just making artificial tension and suspense. And what I'm talking about is when they're about to be boarded by the Alliance, and Mal tells Simon, go get your sister. Now, Simon is thinking he's going to turn us in, he's going to give us to the Alliance, and Mal has a plan that he's going to hide them outside the ship. As the viewer, Mal's not just going to hand them over. It's only the third episode, but still, they're not going to have the main protagonist of the story suddenly betray everybody else. That's not going to happen. So it just sets up this false tension, because all Mal had to do was say, I've got a plan to hide you and your sister. Go get her. We're going to put you in spacesuits or whatever. And instead he's just like, don't question me, boy, or whatever it is that he says. and there's like this little squabble and there's tension, and we're supposed, as the audience, we're supposed to be like, oh, is Mal gonna turn them in? But like, no, he's not going to. So it just doesn't work. All right, enough of all that. Let's talk about what I did like. The interrogation scene is one of the funniest scenes in the whole series as far as I'm concerned. It's one of my favorites, where they've been taken back to the Alliance ship and they're questioning them, trying to figure out what's going on. And it just cuts between all of their answers. And you've got Zoe just being all stoic, like she doesn't want to give him any information. And, you know, she's the military person. And he's like asking her about her marriage with Wash, and she just doesn't want to say anything, give him any personal details or anything like that. And she goes, we're just very private people. And then it cuts to Wash talking about Zoe's legs and just being really explicit and being like, have you ever been with a warrior woman? That's one of the best lines ever. And then earlier in the episode, at the very beginning, I really liked the scene that it opens with, where they're playing like basketball, or this future spaceship version of basketball. And it was just cool to see the whole crew, kind of, even the ones who don't really get along all that well, kind of coming together and having a little bit of fun. That was just cool. I think they needed to include that scene because from there it gets really dark and it's almost sort of becomes a horror movie for a little while, which is another thing I like. I thought they pulled off the creepy aspect of it pretty well. I thought it was really suspenseful when they're exploring the ship and finding like the food that's left out and they don't know what happened to these people. I think they did a pretty good job of making it creepy, and I don't remember if the big jump scare got me the first time or not. It definitely didn't this time because I was expecting it, but I don't know. Okay, now some random little things that I just thought were interesting. There's a point where Jane is talking to somebody and he's holding the little sawed-off shotgun or whatever it is, which is Zoe's gun, which was weird. Like, why is Jane holding Zoe's gun in a scene? That never happens again, I don't think. Also, the spacesuits have armor on the shoulders. It's like samurai armor on their shoulder pads. And I think they have some armor on the chest too. And it's like, where did they look cool. They look appropriate for Firefly, like they just sort of found them. They're just some old hand-me-down space suits or whatever. That's hard to say. Space suits. Also, I thought it was weird that the survivor they find is completely clean-shaven. I feel like I just need to start watching everybody's facial hair in this show this time through, because why would he not have a beard? They say he's been there for a while, like a few weeks or so, and he's kind of feral, like he's supposed to be totally crazy and dangerous, like, but he's stopping to shave regularly. I don't know, that was weird. And lastly, I wanted to point out that at this point in the show, they're not really very good space pirates. We've now gone 2 episodes in a row where they haven't been able to keep the loot. They decided to give it back last episode, and this time it got taken from them by the Alliance. So they're probably not doing too well right now. Maybe they have other jobs off screen where everything goes fine and they get paid and they that keeps them going and it's fine. But the ones we've seen so far have not gone well for them. And I don't remember, I want to start keeping track of this because I don't remember how often they actually get to keep the loot and actually get paid for the jobs they're trying to do. So that'll be interesting to pay attention to this time. Alright, that's all I've got for this episode. Be sure to watch the next one, Shindig, if you haven't, or haven't in a while maybe, if you want to watch along with me. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.